how to actually use the battery on F1 26, the 2026 DLC with the new regulations, a new battery system. Today I'm gonna go through all my tips and tricks. I league race at a very high level, I was in PSGL PS F2 last season. Game is now a little over a week old and we've already discovered a little bit how it works. So today I'm gonna go through everything you need to know about the new battery system and how to use it to the best of your advantage. Alright, jumping on into the game. I've picked Austria because it's one of the few tracks that I've already done some practice for. Below my beautiful face you can see the non-ERS. I'm gonna first go through every setting that is possible. I'm gonna go into qualifying first and then we're gonna go into a racing situation, what you want to look out for and the best tips that I have for you. Starting off with all the modes, you have your battery percentage that you have in the middle of the screen, of course. That will dictate how much battery you have. Below that you can see a little tire that is now not filling up with a red marker. Now as you can see, if we're gonna use that battery and we then break the car, you can see that red is kind of gonna increase that little tire. That is basically your harvest of the lap. So if you are going through this corner, as you can see here, that little tire is gonna fill up and that's your maximum harvest throughout the lap. That means that if I'm harvesting more than that, if that tire is full and I'm not even finished with the lap, I am doing too much LICO. I'm basically going too early and I'm losing time because you cannot save any more battery than that throughout the lap. You will notice that, especially when you are using that battery and your battery is very low and you are trying to regain as much as you can, but at some point you cannot regain more than a certain point. And that is that little tire, as you can see, that will fill up as you are going through the laps. And of course, if you are at 100%, you cannot harvest more than 100%, which is why the tire will not go full. And that is why you never want to really be in 100%. Only when you have enough pace, you might want to be at 100%, so you have that maximum amount of power for the exit. But you kind of don't want to be in 100% because you are losing some harvest maybe. If you are not to the harvest, as you could see here, we could have used a little bit more on the straight and then we could have harvested more and then used more on the next straight as well. So then we're going to take a look at the MFD below my face. We have a couple of modes. We have non, medium, hot lap and boost. Straight away, as you might have heard already from everyone, hot lap is not really a mode that we're going to use again in this game. Because hot lap should be for a qualifying hot lap, but also in qualifying, as I will explain soon, you don't want to use hot lap. You'd rather be in medium, non and boost. Reason for that is hot lap is less efficient. It will give you a little bit more power, but it's kind of unnecessary because if you're in medium and you want more battery, you're just gonna use the battery really to its full advantage, and otherwise you would just stay in medium. Now there are small instances where you can use hot lap. Maybe for a long straight, but you can see that battery will go down quicker, and usually if you are in medium that will be fine. Now why do we want to go into non or medium? Because obviously we want to use the boost a lot, as that gives so much power. Now if we are at an exit of a corner and we are in medium, it will give a lot of the power already. So the easiest thing for a racing situation is using medium and just using the overtake mode. That's quite the easiest situation because if you are in non, it will give you the better traction. There's no power going to the rear tires, so you can go more easily on the throttle. As you can see here for this example, we can really slam the throttle down and nothing really happens. And if we try that in a medium mode, we're gonna slam the throttle and we might even lose the car. Able to do that right now in this corner, but you get the point, alright? We want to use non, medium and boost. Where do we want to use it? So, we're gonna start off with qualifying. In qualifying, the goal is to use the most battery that you can throughout the lap without running out too soon. If I'm using all of the battery here, as you're gonna see here, we're gonna keep it in medium for this example. Even if I go LICO, we're gonna save a lot of battery here. But if we keep using it for every corner on this track and we use too much, we will not have any battery left at the end of the lap. Here you can see we're using the battery, but we're just gonna block out and we're just gonna lose a bunch of time in this place. So that is why we want to be smart with what we use. That makes quite a lot of sense. Now how much do we use and when do we go into non? We already established we want to go into non, medium and boost mode. So we want to use non at the places where we lose the least amount of time at an exit and in the high traction zones. Now in the high traction zones we want to use it because we can be on the power so quick using none, and then we can go into hot lap and we can find the grip. I've noticed in the fast corners this one is already a little bit quicker, but the traction is really hard. As you can see, they're rear slipping out if you are in medium. But in the fast zones like this or an S section or in a certain track, medium will just give you so much power that it almost seems like you are wasting too much time if you are in non. That's what I have noticed, but I still see that you can use non a lot. And also in places like this. As you can see here, we're going through this right-hander. This little place, if we are in medium, we're gonna use some battery. If we use non, we use no battery, of course, so the battery will not go down in this tiny little place. Now, where do you think it is more valuable to use that battery? Do you think on this little straight here, this tiny little straight, or at the exit right here, where you're gonna run out of the battery? That's something that you have to learn and try out, and then you figure out which one is faster. But that is kind of when you want to use non, and that's kind of when you want to use medium. Now, how much do you need to LICO? You can look at the harvest limit that you have throughout the lap. As you can see, that little tire, if that harvest limit is already full, you are doing too much LICO, but most often you're gonna not have a full tire, so maybe you can try out more LICO. But it's always very hard to actually find out. At some places I'm pretty sure you do not have to get that tire full. That's not something that you need to be doing in a qualifying, because sometimes it might just be quicker to send it and not just focus on the battery completely, because we only have this one lap that counts in the qualifying, of course. Now, if you want to find out what my best ERS strats are, I am going to be posting hot laps on my account for members, so if you want to check that out, it's fully up to you. So we've now gone through qualifying, which we've talked about non and the medium mode. But when do we use boost? And it's quite obvious. But we want to use it most of the time, because the boost is so powerful. You will gain so much time. You want to be using that boost as much as you can, of course. To make it easy for you, the longer the straight, the more battery you want to use. Because the longer the straight, the more you will benefit from the battery. The shorter the straight, if there's no straight, there's no exit, you will not gain the benefit of the battery, but you will still use some of that battery. So I want to talk about LICO first. What is LICO? Lifting and coasting. You will hear that term a lot from every YouTuber in this new game. LICO is basically that you're lifting, so that you're braking at the engine, and when you're braking on the engine, you are regaining that battery. As you can see, the battery is harvesting so much when you are just out of the throttle. That is when the battery starts harvesting. As you can see, this is harvesting like crazy, and we're gonna get a full battery eventually, as you can see here. So it is very important to note that lifting and coasting in this game is quicker than not lifting and coasting, especially on tracks where it is hard to regain that battery. Now, we have a couple of different lifting and coasting techniques that we can do and that we can apply for different reasons. Because I'm talking about qualifying now, I will first talk about qualifying. Now, one tactic is, look at my throttle input here. We go up to 50% and then we are going through the corner. Now, what that basically will do is, once, as you can see, we are full throttle. If you are 50% throttle, you will also already regain a lot of that battery. And because you're not fully off the throttle, you will lose less time. Now, you will still regain more battery if you are fully off the throttle. You can test that out there. It will go much quicker if you're fully off the throttle, but you will lose less time. So sometimes you can gain a little bit extra by just going partially lifting. And this is also something that you can do. If you are using that battery, you can see it goes down. If you just briefly lift, it will stop going down that quick, you know. In qualifying, it's very important to not forget the racing techniques. The standard racing technique of braking as late as you can, getting onto that power as soon as you can. Of course, the exit will be very important because you want to use that power. So you want to have a good exit everywhere. But you cannot forget to brake as late as you can. Still send it, use all of the track, even though you're still using that battery. For example, if I go LICO from here, I can brake here already, but I will just lose a lot of time compared to me braking as late as I can and using all of the track. So even though you're using that battery, you still have to be on maximum. That might be easier or even harder to find that right braking point. But of course, that's still something to keep in mind for the qualifying. So then I want to head into the race. And first I want to talk about the strategy of your harvesting and LICOing. Basically, the fastest way around the lap, you want to have to figure that out beforehand, before you head into a race. Or in the moment itself, you can try and find it out. Of course, you want to try and fill up that tire as you get the most harvest out of a single lap. And I would still suggest in the race to use that battery, but just use it a lot less. Be very mindful of using that battery. As you can see, we're coming up to the curb. I'm already lifting a little bit, and then we're gonna go through the corner. On the exit in non, we go into medium and we use some battery. We already turn it off. We're gonna be very cool. We're gonna look behind us if someone is attacking us, for example. No one is right now, obviously, because we're all alone. But this is basically how you want to go through a race. We're already at 100%, so we maybe could have used a little bit more. Then we're through here. We're just gonna go LICO, very easy on the throttle usage. Just not a lot of your throttle usage. We're gonna save a lot, and again we are at 100%. We can use some battery as we are gonna go through the last couple of corners. We can go into non because it's not that important. No one's gonna attack us when we are here at this point. We have to still be mindful. The reason I want to use medium in this part is because this exit, if someone behind you is very close and uses the battery and you are getting caught off guard using non, it will just pass you straight away. So that's why we want to use medium, at least in this exit, and some battery to be able to keep that car behind and not have him believe that there's any chance possible going into these corners. And once you are ahead enough, you can take it easy in these next couple of corners. You can go big lifting, using not too much of the throttle. Big lifting, going into medium, we're already back at 100%, and we go and use that power for the next straight. And this is basically how we're going to go through the lap, every single time we go through it. We basically want to go into non, use the battery on the exit. And the reason we want to go and use non, because sometimes you might be tempted to use medium, is because medium gives you so much power that it will be very hard to control. Maybe at the start of the stint it might be doable and you can keep it in medium. But especially when the tires get worn on this game, you will really notice if you are on medium. Even if you are on worn tires and you turn on the battery here, you will feel it and you might lose the car. So you really have to be mindful of that and really watch out. And that's basically how we want to get the strategy down for a lap. Now, I used a little bit there on the mini straight, and that was not necessary. I should not have done that because now we are very low on the battery and we're gonna have to regain more. Alright, so that's basically how we want to get the strategy down of the ERS usage. Now, this is not counting in how we race against other people and how you should approach things. So that's what I'm gonna talk about now, is when you are racing with other people, how do we approach the racing and when do we use it, when do we not use it. So we have a couple of different scenarios. Of course, we want to always try and stay in that 1 second of the car ahead, because you will just get so much extra boost that is more important. It's more important to push for that 1 second than lose out on that 1 second and have 10% more battery, for example. Obviously, if you're running at 0% battery, it will be still hard to stay in that 1%, but you do want to push once you see that you are barely in that 1 second of the car ahead. So what can very easily happen is you have this nice little battery strategy, but someone behind you is going for a push. He uses much of the battery, and we're gonna try and defend. We are hopefully in medium once we do this, because we will have the more power. If we are non and he will just blast past us. That is why we want to be on medium. We use some battery. If we see that he uses the battery, we can try and defend from him. But the best thing is try and stick with that battery strategy that you already have. Do not deviate from it too much. If you can see that someone is pushing behind you, the goal is just to keep him behind you. And you do not want to use more battery than him. If he tries to go for the move, and you can just go defensive LICO, as you can see here. Let's say we have someone behind us really pushing hard. We're gonna go defensive. We can still try and lift a little bit and go LICO. We just park the car in the middle of the road. We still have done our battery strategy, and we are maybe able to keep him behind. It's really easy to lose that battery strategy that you have and then lose that position, and not even only his position, but lose much more positions because you have just burnt out your battery for no reason. If someone is really aggressive and really wants to get past, sometimes it's better to pick your fights and to let him go, and at least focus on not losing on more positions in the race. So that sometimes it feels very counterintuitive, but you have to be smart about your usage of the battery. and sometimes it's better to let someone go, and perhaps he might be very low on the battery and you just have that extra advantage. Perhaps he has just used all of his battery, you have just saved, he just went past you, and it's the yo-yo racing that you can just use the battery here and you're straight back again. You have to really be confident in what your own usage is on the battery and really be mindful of when you use that battery and when you don't want to use that battery. Lifting and coasting as much as you can, especially when you have two cars ahead fighting. If you can just lift and coast more, you will have more battery going into the next straights, and you might even be able to get a little double moved on. It's very possible in this game, and you can very much outsmart people. And then you have two moves that you have already covered, and if you are then able to save that battery up again, then you can go for another move on the cars ahead. Just being smarter, being more controlled, being more strategic, it will really help you this game. Now, one more thing I want to very much note is once you are going into the pits, you will gain so much battery that it's better to just use as much as you can on your in lap. Also, be mindful on your out lap, because after you've just pitted, let's say you're trying to undercut people, it's really easy to go ahead and push and use too much of that battery. And that's where you can make a huge mistake, because then if we have just pushed and we've used all of the battery, he just comes out of the pits, he just has a full battery right now, he will still have the upper hand, because right now I cannot use the battery. Be mindful, be strategic, and that's basically how we're gonna go through racing on this game for the battery, either if you like it or don't. This is just going to be the name of the game. If you are really able to get the maximum out of the battery, you will be faster than an opponent that might be slower through the corners. Alright, so there you have it, my battery guide for this game. If you are struggling with turning off the assist and actually being quick without any assist, go ahead and watch the video in your screen right now, and I'll see you guys next time.